Hey, boys and girls, weather report for April 21st, 2021, and I hope you have all returned to your normal dosage of marijuana after yesterday. So this is my hope.
That's why you don't want to create a shortage for yourself next month.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure people are responsibly budgeting their marijuana intake.
Yes. Colbert had a little thing on it.
In the side chat, yes, Amy Newman, you did have a profound effect upon our beloved Sal Cordova.
Yes, you disturbed him seriously.
Okay, I'm putting the link in. You're welcome to come in, Amy. Please do, as well as anyone else. But have you got Sal's video up to play by any chance?
Not yet. But first of all, I wanted to mention Atheist Junior's channel. He had a talk with Mr. Archeopteryx last night, and he had some other guests on there. Let's see. Can't really see anybody significant. But yeah, so it was about a 4-hour talk, and his channel, I think, has been up for a very long time. And I put the link to his channel in the side chat. And anybody who has his email address, I really would like it. Or reach out to him and ask him to reach out to me. He was on with us on David Neff's show the other night, and he seems like a pretty decent guy to talk to. He does a lot of takedowns on Kent Hovland. Hovland. And I put Darth. Darth had a thing with Leo. I think it was. I don't know if it was on Tomm Rabbitt's channel or if they recorded it. And the link is there, but Leo is also going to put that up on his channel. It'll probably get a lot of views. Leo, apparently it was a pretty long conversation with Leo.
Is Leo a presuppositionalist Christian now?
He is. I think so. So
wow.
Anyway, that is in the description, and then Atheist Junior, and then let's see, Amy and Sal's debate on MDDD. If you gave me the right link, that is in the description. And then I have proof that Navy SEALs should not be allowed to have weapons. Sandy Pigeon is a retired Navy SEAL, and he kind of went, he believes in almost every Noah's Ark conspiracy theory known to man. Is I tuned in for about 3 minutes in the middle of the video, and he was going on about some archaeological finds that, the same bullshit. They won't allow people to go back in and, do a proper archaeological search or whatever. But you looked at it a little bit more than I did, so you have some information.
Well, in the first few minutes, basically I got 28 minutes in, and I need some therapy. I don't understand how you made it through life this far, having listened to so many Christian YouTubes like that. I don't understand how you made it through life.
Oh, sorry.
That's quite all right. That way it reminds me of what I just said.
Exactly. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, no more short-term memory issues for me.
That is one of the features of the weather report. You remember what you just said. Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to come in.
Oh, how I managed to live. I've only been listening to this crap for about a year. Well, a year for creationism, and then prior to that, it was the whole Matt Dillahunty atheist fight for the probably 2 years prior to that. So I haven't been doing this stuff that long. This creationist stuff is I find it very entertaining, and also a little.
To be honest,
it's what?
It kind of is, to be honest.
It is, but it's also a little frightening to realize that there are people that think the world is 6,000 years old. It's just so goddamn crazy. It is so batshit that I don't know. It worries me that these people can vote and drive cars and stuff. And there ought to be a little line on the, when you get a driver's license, do you think, how old do you think the earth is?
Yeah. I'm going to put a link in private chat for you, Speed. I want you to click on it and see if there's anything you can do with it in terms of making it available just to cut for a quick scan. You'll see which one I'm talking about.
I see that.
Hey, guys, what's happening?
Hey, David.
Wasn't that kind of funny that I kind of brought up Sandy yesterday and, that thing was on. I did see Sal had posted that, a little while back, and I did see that, and I was like, oh, I would love to watch that. And it just so happened it was on last night, which was kind of funny, but there you go. There's Sandy. And, I don't doubt that he was a Navy SEAL, of course, but like I said, I have a hard time marrying those two together. It's just kind of, Andy's got a PhD, which I believe is what, in theology, I think, right?
Ministry studies, with emphasis on apologetics or something.
Yeah.
Sandy,
so, yeah, he has a PhD, Oh, I actually watched that whole thing, and at the end, there was some very interesting. Once he was all done with his spiel with all the, the historical stuff and the archaeological stuff and all that, once he was done with that whole thing, there was some discussion at the end, and there was some interesting points made by Sandy. He answered a few questions. I think I wrote down some timestamps. I'd have to run. I got it. I actually. Yeah, from last night's video with Sandy.
That's awesome. I'm glad you did that.
I actually, if you'll have to give me a minute, I'll have to run and get them. I don't have them right with me, but so he did say some interesting things because there was a couple of questions posted to him in the chat, and it was pretty pitiful the way he answered them. I'm trying to think what the question was. People. I know one of the questions was, how do you reconcile, the fossil record? It was like a two-part question. I know that was part of it. I'm trying to think of what the other part was, but it was. I think it was basically asking, how do you reconcile young Earth, with everything and his. And it was also about, like the size of the universe. How do you reconcile that? How do you reconcile the fossil record? And he referred to Sal for the, when it comes to the universe. He's like, well, I don't know. And then he said, well, anyway, I don't want to say everything that he said. So if you want to watch it.
So he's got a PhD in what? Biblical studies?
Ministry studies, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. But he did take systematic theology, which he called the calculus of Bible studies or something like that. And I don't know about that. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of, if you're gonna become a PhD in systematic theology, you're gonna have to learn German or French or something like that. But no, it's nothing like calculus. It's not rocket science, that's for sure. It's basically it's like taking a philosophy class, except everybody thinks of God as real in one form or another.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was actually educated in the field. I thought he was just a conspiracy theory guy.
Well, yeah, you can obviously be uneducated or educated in theology and still be a conspiracy theorist.
Yes, apparently. Hi, Amy.
Hello, Amy.
How are you guys?
Hey.
And so I am actually procrastinating homework, so I can only be on for an hour. But you guys have me interested. Scott, you said that I had a profound effect on sound?
Yes. Let's go ahead and demonstrate it. Speed, can you roll that beautiful bean footage and take it to 2 minutes in?
2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, 152. Let's
just start there.
let me know if sound does not work. Whoops.
It does not work.
What is going on? Okay. Oh, I know why this is not working. That's it.
Their minds and see the light. But of late, as some of them have confessed that they'd rather go to hell than serve the Christian God, even if all the signs pointed that the Christian God is real. As they have said that, and quite openly so, I said, well,
Hey, it's still echoing.
I'm not expecting.
What's that?
It's echoing. I echoed the whole time.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and that was right. It echoed right over the point where he was alluding to Amy.
Yeah, let's try that again. Start here.
Much of any illusion of, maybe early on I had some naive illusions that these guys are going to change their minds and see the light. But of late, as some of them have been confessing they'd rather go to hell than serve the Christian God, even if all the signs pointed that the Christian God is real. As they have said that, and quite openly so, I said, well, I'm not expecting a lot of eagerness on their part to change their minds. So,
was that it?
With that being said,
that was it.
Yeah.
And
he's mentioned it a couple other times too. Go ahead, Amy.
In a couple of other videos that he did.
I think I know. I mean, I think I actually talked about it last time I was on. It's that I think most people pull the Satanist card as like a troll. And I think I was able to logically walk him through a scenario to which, no, I would be on the other side in this war. I don't think, I mean, you could make me a theist, but if it's Yahweh, the guy that's in this book.
That way you'd be doing less harm.
Yeah.
As with Satan. This whole thing had me thinking, and I was telling Speed about this before the show. Saturday morning I got up and I was just in one of those pondering moods where I stroke my beard and think about things. And, there's that old saying or question that people taught us to ask when I was an, evangelical Southern Baptist Christian, as if you suppose you're standing before God right now and he asked you, why should I let you into my heaven? What would you say? And that was supposed to be the lead in to witnessing to him. And basically what I would say is, well, I'm not really that interested in coming into your heaven because there's going to be people that I know and love in hell. And somehow you're going to do some brain surgery on me to where I don't think about them anymore. And I don't want to be that kind of person. And B, let's say you do throw me in hell. I know I'm going to be conscious. I know I'm going to be in torment. But I can adjust to torment because I'm going to be conscious. I'm going to be a person. And so we have our plasticity of our mind and of our brains and stuff. So I'll adjust and then I'll escape, I know that sounds silly, but if they can write their own little fantasy about what happens after we die, then so can I. And Amy, I just wanted to ask personally, would you be on my escape committee?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I've seen all the World War II movies. You have to have an escape committee.
Makes sense. Someone with a beard.
Yeah. We'll just have to recruit, and then we'll just escape and go find our own little corner of the cosmos and be happy. And
you just have to develop enough courage and pain tolerance to swim to the bottom of the lake of hell, and then you come out of a volcano in Iceland.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. So, but it's just a matter of, they assume that if all this stuff happened, if all it was real, that there's some inherent worthiness to this supposedly all-powerful being. But where's the evidence of such worthiness?
And can I give my hypothesis on why this may be affecting Sal?
Yeah.
Sure.
I believe in their head, because this is the perfect judge that's doing 5D chess, that in Sal's head, the bad people go to hell, the good people go to heaven, clean cut as water as day, and that's it.
Mhm.
And so it's like a bow, nice bow on it. But if there is even a crack that there are good people on the hell, and hey, are there bad people fighting on side of heaven? I don't
Yep.
know. Starts to get a little bit more gray.
It does get a little interesting, doesn't it? If you could voluntarily go to hell. Like I've always told Christians that if I wake up after I die in some fucking heaven place, I am going to kick somebody's ass. I mean, I'm going to be pissed. Like when I die, I do not want to wake up anywhere. That's going to really irritate the hell out of me if I do.
And there are some like the annihilation theorists, but I always say this is generally the rare people. But I'm like, I agree with you guys. I'm not going to exist. I just think you are so.
Yeah.
I like this.
Anyway.
Dessel. Oh, it's pointing at himself. I think he meant to point at you, Amy, but I'm not.
Hey, I'm okay with that. I truly don't understand Satan. As I'm reading the Bible for really the first time, it's starting to realize the serpent just disappears. He just does his one thing, and then he's just gone until chapter 2. And then it's not until chapter 2, the New Testament, that he becomes this main character again. And then I still don't understand why he does what he does, because if he is down there torturing people for God, he's working for God, then that's just God's basement. So I don't get it.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know.
Unless you think about what the kind of order the Greeks had, you had a deity in charge of the underworld, and so either way, Satan is being elevated to the status of a god.
Yeah.
So David and Scott, you both have bookmarks. Who should we do first?
Well, let's see. I think the only next bookmark I have was at 3 minutes 30 seconds.
3:30.
Sandy.
Stop it, Sal. Stop it.
Okay, now I'll need to do a little preface here. They talk about this Taylor prism, which is basically a 14-inch long piece of clay with cuneiform etched into it that basically it talks about King Hezekiah in Judah, who was king of Judah, being a son of David, and some of the tributes that he paid, taxes to the kingdom of Assyria, the empire of Assyria. And Sal draws some conclusions here, which I thought were delightful.
Okay. I'll roll up.
Can I, Speed,
Hey,
can
Peter.
I interrupt real quick?
You interrupt?
I have never heard of
Hi,
this.
Peter.
Go ahead, Peter.
Hi, Amy. I have to correct Amy. I'm really sorry,
I'm up for
Amy.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, you just said that the serpent goes away and then he reappears. He doesn't.
Never does?
Oh, so you're
He nev-
saying he technically... I see where this is going. He technically never was, because he was technically the serpent, and then they make a new character, Satan. Is this where this is going?
Yes, those
I
are
agree.
those are two different characters, because the serpent is cursed and has to crawl on its belly for the rest of his life. If you read the rest of the Bible, every time Satan is mentioned, Satan walks with God. You cannot walk if you don't have legs.
So,
And
I agree.
there are a lot of things that make it that Satan, as depicted in the Bible, is not the serpent.
Well, wait a minute. If the snake can talk without vocal cords, why couldn't he walk without legs?
Maybe
Go
those were
on.
after projections.
Dan
I'm
used
sorry.
for coming up with that, but no, but it's still impossible. If God cursed him and said you will never walk again, then you can't walk.
Oh,
See, got my way out of that.
oh, there you go.
And
Yeah,
I would
weaseled
just-
you in. But
And I would just say, yeah, it's basically just the Christian narrative. They seem to be two
Yes.
completely different people. And then, I mean, if you're Jewish, technically there is no Satan. There is just the serpent, and that's all that happened. And then God just fucked around with people a bunch, and then everyone dies. The end.
Yeah. And then along comes evolution and presents you snakes with legs. Where the hell did
true.
they come from?
Yeah, it was.
So that was my tiny interruption. I just had to jump on because I'm pedantic like that, and I love Amy. So if I can
I
mess with Amy, I will.
Well, it makes me ask whether the serpent was a titanoboa from ancient South America, or a python of some sort, or a grass snake. I don't know.
Titanoboa would have broken the tree. I would see him coiled around the tree. Yeah,
It would have eaten the tree.
yeah, that wouldn't have worked.
But it was the biggest
Titanoboa would have curled up with both Eve and the tree, so she had no other choice than eat the apple.
yeah,
That's right. It was how he said it. We just don't hear how he said it.
Yeah.
Okay, can I play this?
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Going to play something.
So getting archaeological finds that establish that Hezekiah was a real person is getting us closer to the big event of Noah. And so that's one reason I'm especially happy to be talking about this topic. It establishes many of the Judeo-Christian claims. So what I'm gonna deviate a little bit from
You can go ahead
maybe
and
the
pause it.
script, because Sandy didn't and I didn't really.
Why are these
Yeah.
guys so desperate?
Yeah, we do have evidence of a King Hezekiah. We do have some mention in the archaeological record of a house of David, but and so you can kind of get from to the like grandfathership of David over Hezekiah, but David, all archaeological evidence points that if David was a real king, he was more like a tribal elder or something than an actual bona fide king of a kingdom, because the archaeological evidence points to a very sparsely populated area that wasn't so advanced or so built up, and so. But then to take that and say, "Ooh, that means you're closer to Noah," is one of those extravagant extrapolations. You know, that's not warranted. You're okay, so we're going back to Noah because he was related to Noah, and this is more. It just doesn't work that way. In fact, what it's pointing to, the archaeology seems to be pointing to, is the fact that that a lot of the Kingdom of Judah stuff in the Bible seems to be hyped up, mythologized, and even just a creation, a fiction, and it's the later Kingdom of Judah, and of course a lot of the northern kingdom has actually more archaeological evidence for it than the southern kingdom. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. How desperately they are to. Desperately, they want to make that extrapolation all the way to Noah.
Yeah, they've got 700 to about 700 BC. There's some evidence for a king Hezekiah, the son of Judah, or whatever, uncovered in it. They found some seal and some other archaeological information. But yeah, 700 years is about the right time frame to immortalize and mythologize a king, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
where the hell is there any backing for David at all? And where did David come up? I mean, where's he in the series?
I would have to. Oh, in this particular thing, I have no idea. Or do you mean in the Bible?
In the Bible, I guess.
It was basically David. David died, then supposedly Solomon, but there's no evidence really of Solomon's kingdom. There's some that people try to fit into it, but it's not a done deal. It's not a bona fide for sure kind of thing. And then there were a couple of, there were several generations of kings, and then finally Hezekiah, which, what was it, 722, when the kingdom of, no, that was the northern kingdom, so it was like in the late I want to say 588, but like I said, I'm bad on dates. It was the what would that be, the early 6th century, when finally Judah was taken into captivity. But I think Hezekiah was somewhere, but I'm not going to dig myself deeper. I'd have to look into the details.
Yeah.
And
But
can I?
several generations after a supposed David, and we only have one archaeological piece of evidence, I think, that points to King David, and that is just a offhand mention of the house of David, not this is David, or this is something that David said, or this is something that David wrote. We just have an inscription that speaks of the house of David.
We happen to have David here in the audience today.
Woohoo!
And I heard we're all invited to his house for drinks after this.
Okay, Amy.
I just wanted to say something because I want to put a pin in the Noah story because it causes us so much grief in that they have taken that story and worked backwards, trying to then add on philosophy and science to make the story work. But if you think about it, it's a lot comes from that 600-year-old Noah who built the boat just with him and his family. And the way that they get around that is that they say we are regressing in our DNA, something that I think Sal is a proponent of. If I'm doing you wrong, Sal, you can tell me. But a lot of the creationists go with this angle. It's almost like Adam and Eve and Noah. I mean, those two stories combined, that's like half of where all this all but 80% of where all their creationist arguments are all trying to prove those stories real. And so it keeps on coming up because that's where because atheists bring those questions up. They're like, how do you get the Grand Canyon? And they'll be like, well, it was the flood and a week. Boom. Done. Bow.
Give it a week, we'll have you a canyon.
Yeah. And so, it's just those two stories, and Noah won a lot of grief.
How much of the Bible does that account for? Like, how many books in the Bible?
Less than like 2% of the first book. It's like,
wow. So does anybody know the history of how they put that together and why they put that as the first book? I mean, I guess it would be obvious, but wasn't there some biblical shuffling going on with Bible books at some point in history?
It's basically, it seems to me like a cut and paste job. They had, and of course, I'm no expert. Let's just all say Digital Hammurabi 3 times, and maybe Josh Bowen will join us. If he even listens to this. I'm feeling a need for his intervention right now.
And I'm pretty sure the line of order that it went was that it was oral tradition and passed down, and then humans decided to do something very silly, and they created the Torah, and they decided to write it down. And then once it write it down, you got people called fundamentalists who instead couldn't change it orally. So once you had the Jewish fundamentalists, you then got the schisms, and you get the Christian fundamentalists, and then they say, you know what, the Torah, we got to keep that stuff. Let's vote via committee what stays in for the new stuff. And bada bing, bada boom. They kick out the Talmud because no one needs that, apparently. And you got Christianity.
Now, what Walker just said here that you've pointed up on the screen is very interesting. The book of Genesis, especially the Genesis creation account, borrows in its imagery and symbology from the ancient Near Eastern cultures around it. It's probably a very old story, but it was meant to take a lot of the deification of creation out of their story. They wanted the sun and the moon, other planetary or heavenly objects not to be associated with gods, because they are trying, at least there's a faction in this cut and paste effort to put together a scripture. They're trying to say only God is in charge of all of this. It was kind of a attempt at demythologizing, if only to point to the myth of their single creator. Although the language kind of does a bad job because they leave, like the plural Elohim, talking about gods. And of course, there's that heavenly council. Let us do this, let us do that. And then God did it and it was good. There's like remnants of a polytheistic culture, even in the text that survives down to us today. But it was an attempt to make the myths of the surrounding cultures, to change them into something more monotheistic, like the Jews wanted to see develop.
So isn't there a place where Jesus refers to Genesis, or does he refer to something else?
He refers to Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve.
Therefore, basically, like in the struggle about divorce, the question he got about divorce, isn't it written that man was created then the woman, and what God hath joined together, let no man cast asunder. They appealed to Adam and Eve as real people, or Jesus did, in order to support his stance on whether a person could divorce a woman for any reason they want to.
What is the evidence that was not added onto the story 1,000 years later, 700 years later?
Well, there's that. I don't know. Yeah, the only I don't know what part of Genesis is found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Where they had an Isaiah scroll and such. I'm not sure how much of Genesis is in there to show us what was being written then. That's a really good question.
This may seem like a cheap shot, but I know one part of the New Testament where Jesus references the Old. He says, "Slaves, obey your earthly masters."
Ooh. Yeah, that was Paul, but yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Was it? You're right. 100%.
Yeah.
That was Paul.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I wonder what the book looked like around the time of Jesus. What the Bible looked like, or did they call it a Bible, or what the hell was it? What did it consist of back then?
It was the Torah, and then
The Torah. They called it the Torah, and that had Genesis in it.
I believe so. Yeah.
What the hell is a Pentateuch?
Pentateuch. That's the first five books of the Bible.
See, it's
Genesis, Exodus,
Yeah.
Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy.
This is also exciting to me. I've never heard. I don't know any of these myths. So
Well,
Let me blow your mind, Speed. Didn't
Okay.
you say earlier that if you were in hell, you had to swim to the bottom of the pool and come up in a volcano?
yep.
I just found a video.
there they
that
are.
says there's a demonic face in the eruption in Iceland. So someone listened to you.
that's right.
There they are.
Somebody escaped.
Yeah, I think I have to refresh because my video is
Suddenly got big, got really huge. Oh, there he is. That's cool. So hell sounds kind of like it sounds punk, and it sounds kind of like a really cool rave.
I know,
I
right?
don't know. Yeah,
You just have to be into a little bit of masochism.
pretty
Well,
pretty
I
sure.
forget which comedian said this. I think it was Louis C.K. But he was extrapolating about hell out loud. He's like, "There's no way that we wouldn't fetishize that. Like, give us like a year, and we're just gonna tell you to do it harder or whatever."
Exactly. Yeah, I think you get used to the whole thing and you kind of go with it,
Yeah.
go with the flow. Yep. Lessen the power of other local religions. Huh. That's pretty cool. Yep.
And-
So this is it. Yeah, swim to the bottom of the lake of fire if you find yourself in hell. Just hold your breath, and chew on a rag or something, bite a rag, and just dive down and go all the way into it. Like the Buddhist idea is when you experience suffering and pain, is not to run from it, but to go into it, right? And in that manner, you go through it. So this is where I got it. So it's kind of a Buddhist idea about hell. It's a good tip. A lot of us may need it, according to what I've heard. I think we're all scheduled according to the creationist camp, and they're trying to save us. So what else we got in this video? Oh, we're looking at volcanoes.
The only other thing I have is a little point where the doctor guy that he's interviewing, it refers to the atheists, and the atheists don't,
Cool.
Oh, you want to play it? I think it was.
I love it.
And before you start that, I just want to make one point. The Jews are like the Muslims in that they have two different. They have the Torah and the Talmud. The Torah is basically the Old Testament, what everyone thinks about and what even most Jews only know and think about. And then there is the Talmud. And the Talmud, as far as I understand it, is rabbis arguing with each other that got recorded, and then now some Jews follow it, kind of like a Jewish hadith. That is my interpretation of it. I could be wrong. If there's I'm an ex-Jew now, but if there's a Jew in there, you tell me that I'm wrong. But like the hadith.
So you're actually Amy Juman.
Exactly. And I'll tell you, that is an interesting thing. I always call it the Jews take the exact opposite approach to all of the other religions, and that is how I think they are surviving right now. They don't proselytize, but they like Hotel California. They'll you could be a Jew and you go up to them and be like, "Oh my God, I'm having a crisis of faith. I don't believe in God." And there's a chance they'll be like, God, who believes in God? It'll be like, what? What do you mean? Who believes in God? This is Yahweh. That's the whole shtick. And so Jews are very weird. They they want the door to be open so hard that I have to self-kick myself out of it.
Right. That's pretty cool.
And so, yeah.
And I have to thank the Jews for getting me my co-host, because the Jews are the ones who came up with Lilith, Adam's first wife, who ran away because she wanted to be on top, and both Adam and God didn't allow that, so she ran away to have sex with men outside of Eden.
And you talk about borrowing from the cultures around you in the ancient Near East. Lilith is just a major figure in Babylonian mythology, Assyrian mythology, all around that whole area. They have a Lilith, and it's just amazing. Some sort of goddess type.
There's a Lilith in Jewish mythology. Lilith was Adam's first wife, and she ran away before God created Eve.
And can I just point out, there was never a time.
Lilith is now the succubus who visits men in their sleep and draws their sperm from them.
Damn. Is that what happened?
That according to Jewish mythology, that is what happened.
Wow.
That explains a lot.
And I just want to point out, both Adam was never that amazing. Amazing! Let me tell you, both Lilith and Eve, he was manhandled by. God had to step in and be like, look, Adam, we need to have a talk. You need to stop fucking getting manhandled by these women. I'm going to make it law or something. He tried.
Yeah, he had to make it law that the man was the head of the family, because until then, it was pretty much the women who decided what's going to happen.
Wasn't a good track record for Adam. Just say it. Just pointing that out.
Nope.
Good.
But then again, to his defense, he was the first man. So who would have taught him what he should do?
Yeah, who would have taught him how to be a bro?
Yeah,
You know? Yeah.
no one.
Yep.
God wasn't a big help either, because everything God did in the Bible, he screwed up. So, not a good teacher either.
So you got a timestamp?
I think it's 6:55, and I basically call it Christian self-soothing, because
I love when they talk about the atheists.
yeah, they talk about the atheists, but I call it otherizing self-soothing. In other words, they make themselves feel better by talking bad about other groups of people.
I call it building with straw.
Yeah, they don't understand us because But anyway, so it's just a little snippet there.
Okay, here we go. Ready, boys and girls?
To my life, and they are still unfortunately slaves to the world. And I'm hoping that
I did hear this part. Okay, let me go back.
Okay, back up that a little bit, because I might have.
Right.
let the Holy Spirit live your life for you, and it is very freeing. This is what a lot of atheists don't understand. They think we're slaves to this, but we are. It actually has been the most freeing experience in my life, and they are still, unfortunately, slaves to the world. And I'm hoping that the seminary studies that the Holy Spirit took me to.
Foreskin. The reason we think that you are slaves is because literally every Christian tells me that they're a slave of Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that's the argument they use when we're talking about biblical slavery. So don't put that on us, Mr. Sandy. That's on you.
Is Amy back yet?
Not that I know of.
Nope. BRB.
And thing that we understand completely, at least, like I was in Christianity for over 30 something years of my life, and I knew the lingo, the talk. I knew how a disciple was supposed to live their lives and such. And I don't even think in terms of, y'all are slaves to this. I just think y'all have, a lot of people have been raised on Christianity at a time when their critical skills were not developed, neurology being underdeveloped, and have stuck with it. And because of its soothing promises of heavenly life, reuniting with your dead relatives and such, you're just kind of, I'm going to use the word biased, but not in a negative way. You're just biased towards trying to prove that it's correct.
And to enlighten poor Sandy here, let me read 1 Corinthians 7:22. For the one who was a slave when called to faith in the Lord is the Lord's freed person. Similarly, the one who was free when called is Christ's slave. Don't put this on us when your book is literally telling you that that's the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. He feels freer because he is a Christian, but I feel freer because I'm not a Christian. However, his freedom is good freedom, and my freedom, they think, is just because I want to be free to sin or whatever.
And funny because his freedom comes with limits, whereas ours doesn't.
Yeah, we impose our limits because I I don't want to be so free that I become unhealthy. I don't want to be
we
so
choose
free
we
that I
choose
hurt people.
we choose our own limits, which is the ultimate freedom. If your limits are put on you, then you don't have freedom. So
it's kind of an amazing thing. Are you back, Amy? Not yet, because I wanted to tie this into something. Over and over again, you hear about this born again experience and this freeing experience, personal relationship with God, and you hear it from a lot of Christians. But I got news for these Christians. You hear that very same story from many, many other cultures and religions, this born again experience. Our friend Kafai calls it an ego death. And basically, there is something that happens to us psychologically. And now, this guy, Sandy Pigeon, right before he said that thing about atheists, he was talking about a time of extreme stress in his life when he was lost and on the bottom, or he talks about it later or something. And that is the common thread in all of these experiences, that a person gets right down on the ground and they're just, they have no hope, they have nothing left, and they finally say, help me. And at that point, you have this sort of like ego death experience. And I believe that if we could actually brain scan a person when that happened, we would see a fire building in the temporal lobe, and it would like fly all over the brain, and you would be able to see it on a CAT scan. So it's something that happens to us. And back in when my mom, when I was a little boy, my mom had what you call nervous breakdowns, right? Because my dad was a horrible alcoholic and my mom was a little high strung, and they would hospitalize her and she would come out renewed. And like a nervous breakdown is actually another word for ego death. It's where you get right on the bottom, and it happens to almost every alcoholic who recovers. Not all of them, because you can also do this over a period of time very slowly, where you change yourself slowly. But there are some people that hit the bottom and they come out of it and they completely change their lives. And if Jesus is the thing that happened to be there when it happened, then that is the thing that you're going to cling to, much like a goose following whatever, when it hatches, it will follow whatever it sees first. And it's the same thing with all of these religions. So Kafai always talks about this, what the hell does he call it? There's a name for it. This one religion idea, or this one source of religion. I can't imagine why that word left my brain right now, but it did. But anyway, there's something at the basis of all these religions, and it is that personal experience. But Christians think that only they can have the real one, which makes them assholes. They're assholes.
And can I jump in real quick?
You can. I diatribed.
And now I lost it. Lost it.
I'm sorry, Peter.
Damn. Oh, no. Okay. So I want to butcher Sandy just a little bit more about slaves. So I've already found 16 verses in the Bible where it says that you are a slave of God. The best one yet is Revelation 7:3, saying, do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the bondservants, slaves, of our God on their foreheads. So the slaves of God get a seal on their forehead. Somewhere else in the Bible that's called the mark of the beast. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. That book is pretty interesting.
The mark of the beast is either on your hand or on your forehead. Makes you think, right?
Unless, of course, you had the COVID vaccine, then it's in a microchip.
Yeah, then you're saved by 5G.
That's right.
Damn, I'm still not finding that word that refers to the basis of all religion or whatever.
Grounded being?
Grounded being, that would be a good thing to Google up, because Kafai is always talking about it. And
Perennial philosophy?
yes, perennial philosophy. I was
Dang,
looking in
I should have been on Alex Trebek's show, Jeopardy.
Yes, you should. You're handy. Pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, perennial philosophy. It's kind of, but Kafai thinks it refers to some actual ontological thing, that exists, when actually it's a psychological phenomena of the human mind that takes hold of us and has changed our cultures. And if aliens arrive and they find out that we're a technological society that thinks that there was an ark floating on a tornado torrent of, bukkake, they're going to say, oh my God, you poor fucking, we're leaving. Anyway, I just think it's funny. But that experience is important, and we don't study it because it's so tied in. It's almost like their sacred little religious nut, And there's one guy, his name is Newman, I think Andrew Newman, and he actually studies these experiences in CAT scans, but he hasn't had that born again experience. I mean, getting a person to have that experience while they're in a CAT scan is very difficult. It's hard to capture them when they're having a nervous breakdown and put them in a CAT scan. But anyway, that interests me more than anything else about the human mind, that experience. And that's why I get pissed off at Matt Dillahunty when he hangs up on a person before they start talking about their personal experience with God.
Yeah.
Because I love hearing the stories, because the stories are almost always the same. I mean, there's a commonality in it, and it's really interesting. Does anybody else agree with me on this stuff, or does anybody else know what the fuck I'm talking about?
Perennial philosophy? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know a bit about it from watching Joseph Campbell's videos, which were very popular for a while there in the 80s or 90s.
Well, the Buddhists call it enlightenment. You have this flash enlightenment, and it has been described as, like the burning bush, which is interesting because when you take LSD around a willow bush, the bush looks like it's on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And LSD and psychedelics do sort of the same thing, and they do it with a pill. So I mean, it's all tied together, and it's really, really kind of interesting. But anyway, so what else we're gonna do today, boys and girls?
It's funny how you're talking about this stuff. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
We can hear you.
Yeah, you butted it a little bit.
I think I may
go
be
ahead.
lagging, maybe. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. It's funny how you talked about this stuff, because Sandy Pigeon is in his postdoc. He claims he is, he's doing studying like near-death experiences and like neuroscience type stuff, and he talks about that in this video right at the very close to the very end.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm back. Sorry.
That's what he's doing.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you miss a lot, Amy? I was talking about something that kind of ties into the 12-step programs and spiritual experiences, enlightenment, ego death, psychedelics, and the whole tie-in, which is something that I'm absolutely obsessed with and have been all of my life. This personal experience with God. And so, do you have a timestamp, David, where he talks about it?
Yeah, I actually have several. It depends on what you'd like. I have that timestamp is at the very end when he talks about, what he's doing in his postdoc. And then I have one that's that you'll find quite amusing. There's one statement that he makes that I think you guys will almost fall off your chair. And then there's another one that is kind of sad. He talks about morality. So I got a few of them on here. So
let's do that.
You'd like to go.
Before you start that, I'm looking at your guys' chat, and it sounds actually egotistical to say it, but where I had a ego death-like experience was on ayahuasca.
Yeah. Oh, you tried ayahuasca?
I did. My roommate used to be a DMT cook, so I've done lots of DMT, and then we did ayahuasca once.
I would love to go to a DMT cafe and
That was fun.
Yeah.
Hey cook, what flavor of DMT is it today? And then just have a little experience. Maybe have a coach nearby to keep me grounded or whatever.
Yeah. I'd done about 100 LSD trips, and somebody told me about DMT.
Wow.
And they said, and they told me LSD is like a long, slow journey, and DMT is like being shot out of a cannon. And I told them, and I said to them, no thanks. Nope, not doing it.
It's just because you go from being so sober to so ridiculously tripping so fast that, yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah. Yeah, no thanks.
And maybe also, oh, okay. No, go ahead, Speed.
I like my long, slow journey better, to tell you the truth.
See, I've only tried acid once. I was supposed to try acid a second time, but I left the tab in the apartment that I was staying in, and I feel really, really bad for whoever. Hopefully, they just threw that bag out. They just went open the bag and like, what is this?
Okay.
Amy, but while you were away, we also found the verse that would tell us that you heard of the mark of the beast?
Mm-hmm.
It turns out there's a verse that makes it clear that the beast is actually God.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey, I mean, reading the Old Testament, all I can say is he either needs group therapy or maybe a psychedelic trip himself or to smoke some ganja. I don't know. Yahweh needs to chill.
Maybe a hug.
You'll come to you'll come to the psychedelic trip eventually, because Revelations literally is a psychedelic trip.
Woohoo! Oh, I'm excited. I hear that's the, I don't want to say crazy because that's maybe too offensive, but I hear that's the interesting part.
I'd go with the first word, but
Waiting for a timestamp, David. Pick one.
Oh,
I like the
okay.
one where you fell off your chair.
All right, the funny one, yeah. Go 146:30. That's a funny one.
Wait a minute. Oh, I'm on the wrong video. Some bitch. Okay, hang on a second here. Let me full screen this.
Yeah, there's a whole section of it. Like I only made it through 28 minutes, and most of it was just a big long reading of the Old Testament and pointing to a map. So that was tough to get through that, and I'll never get that amount of time back in my life.
Yeah, I gotta refresh this.
I agree 100% there. That's it.
Okay, I just had to refresh it so that my bookmarks work. They work. Okay, ready? Ready to roll?
oh,
Yeah, I might have a doctorate, but I'm still learning every single day. I mean, I learn stuff from you. When you and Emery and I were talking about phenotypic plasticity, that answered something in my head just like that about microevolution.
Oh boy!
So that's it. That's the philosophical takeaway right there. That we can expand and contract.
And this is the harm of
plasticity
creation right here.
that answers how people can work out and get big.
Wait for it.
Answers environmental pressures. That answers a lot of different foodstuffs, water availability, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, when you guys said that, I said, boom, the light bulb went on. Now I understand it.
I'm glad that was a fail. So, and this is where one thing that Sandy and I agree, but which I actually get flack from the young Earth creationists. I say if you're an old Earth creationist, I consider you on our side, because most old Earth creationists will say, if you could give me the evidence, I believe in young Earth creation, and I accept that because I was there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if you'd sat in my cosmology class you probably would have fell out of your chair too because you're hearing this. And I totally, when I saw the faculty being very, disgruntled with the Big Bang, there are all these kind of grumblings, and now it's really coming out.
Can we pause
there
this for
are
a
things
second?
with radiometric dating. I did a.
You can say
foreskin.
Danny Skin. Yeah, Danny Skin or foreskin. Okay.
That's very interesting because did you notice he said if you heard what you were hearing in my cosmology class, I want to know what kind of cosmology class that is.
Well, what he heard is I think there were several people in his university that were having issues with some aspects of the Big Bang theory. And from that, Cell extrapolated that 6,000-year-old Earth is back on the table. To get from A to B, like he did, takes a whole leap of faith.
So was it other students, or I almost get the impression he got quote unquote facts from a creationist professor who was
no, he got like he does a video on this. He did it about 2 weeks ago. It's called The Big Bang or something. And he shows a whole bunch of physicists that are or cosmologists that are basically questioning the Big Bang. And he gets into it in detail, and all it is they're questioning aspects of the Big Bang idea. And because of that, Cell thinks that means that we have to rethink everything. And when we do, we're going to come up with a 6,000-year-old Earth. Now, the professors didn't say a goddamn thing about 6,000-year-old Earth. That was all in Cell's head. He made that part up. So that's the important thing to understand. If you listen to that video, I'll see if I can find it for you in a minute here, okay? But
and
it's
Steve,
very important.
Don't you like the double standard? When you find a flaw, one flaw in the Big Bang, then we have to throw out everything. But if you find a flaw in the Bible, guess what happens?
Yep. And not only that,
still true.
But the professors, the cosmologists that he's listening to that criticize the Big Bang are of the same nature as the cosmologists that support it. So why is he picking those guys and not the other guys? So he made a big deal of their credentials. I mean, anybody that questions anything that's, status quo or standard in physics, they make a big deal out of their credentials that they're questioning it. But yet they will downplay the credentials of other people who support the theory. So it's so obvious how biased he is and how desperate he is, His faith depends on him proving this young Earth creationism stuff. And he has got himself in a box, which is a bad box, in my opinion. But anyway, I will find that for you, okay, Amy? Okay. Shall I roll, or shall we go to another time? Is there more, David? Have we got to it yet?
I hope I didn't screw it up. There was one. See how he started talking about, I've learned so much from you and this, and I hope I didn't screw up the timestamp, and maybe it was just a second before it, or he's going to say it in a second. If you speed it up, he should say it in a minute, I believe, but you'll fall off the chair when he talks about what he's learned and who he's learned it from.
There's a specific professor. I've seen it on his, I don't think it was Wikipedia.
Hopefully I didn't screw it up, and it might have been just before that. It shouldn't be. I think he's going to. Sal talks so damn slow that, it takes forever to get through something. But
yeah, I've been playing that. I played the stream on 2X, and it still goes by too slow.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but you'll laugh when you hear him say who he has learned from. I kind of didn't want to give it away, but it's something.
Okay, I put that in public chat, the video on the Big Bang that kind of addresses what Cell is talking about here. So And I will put it in the description of the video as soon as I start rolling this. But okay, we can always back up. So
term paper for my solid state physics class. So these are just kind of all personal things. And my point is, it's like you see someone like James Tour. He's an old Earth guy. I don't know that he even describes himself as a creationist, but I consider him a brother in Christ, and he probably articulated the case for intelligent design and creation better than anyone I've known.
Yeah, and I think you have to know both to be effective. If that is going to be part of your apologetics toolbox, you've got to be smart in both old Earth and in young Earth. You have to be, because you have to be able to speak to move a person's within their context, to move a person's opinion around and put that stone in their shoe. And again, I started off as an old Earth guy. 5 years ago, I wasn't anything. But in Ted Cable's class, we read Old Earth, we read Hugh Ross, we read Terry Mortensen, who's a young Earth guy. We read Cable's book, he presents both sides of the argument. So you have to know the arguments. If you are going to go down that as your apologetic tool to start digging in, then you got to know both arguments. But I would say that if you're not knowledgeable on that, don't box the boxer. Get out of that and move into something like archaeology, or move into some other topic that would help that person to start peering into their own worldview. I mean,
wait a minute. Is he saying that if you're talking to a geneticist, then talk to him about geology, because you won't be able to budge him on genetics? Is that kind of what he was saying?
That's what happened to P.Z. Myers when he was talking to a Muslim apologist. They were talking about embryology and why it's in the Quran, and then he said, "Well, I'm an embryologist. Oh, let's talk about geology then."
Yep.
Literally.
Okay. So Ted T. Cable, what is he talking about? This Ted Cable? Is he on anyone's radar?
Never heard of him.
Can I ask you guys, do you guys know who John C. Sanford is?
Oh, yeah, the cell works for him.
That's who I mean. This guy started the whole genetic entropy stuff.
Yep.
And so I think he is who, and he talked about him, I think on either my stream or the debate, and you said he works for him. And so I could see where in his mind he's like, look, the professor, the doctor that I'm working for is showing all this amazing stuff. But it's like, but if you went into a different biology course, would they be showing you why evolution was real? In fact, if we took 100 biology courses, how many would agree that biology is the backbone of modern biology, and how many wouldn't? I would think it would be 99, and then there would be John C. Sanford. Not that he's a bad guy. I just think because he's obviously just like Sal. I don't want to attack their credentials, because they seem like smart individuals who put a hard amount of time into what they do. It's just seems like a lot of work to try and make the book, the science, try and fit the book, and not the other way around. I think I'm doing it.
Yep, it's desperate.
So what kind of conversation can you get yourself in where you're talking genetics or you're talking whatever else, and they want to change the subject to geology, our favorite science maybe, but if this is I just don't say what?
It's a tactic. He mentioned putting a stone in their shoe.
Oh, well, that's rude.
Yeah.
You put a stone
just like
you're gonna get confronted.
John Sanford, Sell admitted that Sanford told him that when you're in a debate, what you want to do is you want to command the definitions, because then you can win the debate if you can make your own definitions. So that's why Sell is hell-bent on redefining the idea of fitness, right?
So that's why they're creating whole new meanings to words.
Well, that's why I like... I think they're not used to going down loopholes, and this really isn't a loophole. We're used to doing it to atheists, but I'm like, okay, so you believe in microevolution, right? They're like, yes, I believe in microevolution. Actually, it normally starts off evolution, it's so silly, we shouldn't be teaching it in schools. And I say, okay, that's fine. But you believe in microevolution, right? And they're like, well, yeah, I believe in microevolution, but it's that macroevolution. That macroevolution, that's really what I have a problem with. And I'm like, okay, so you're now just adding a root word, but you are an advocate for evolution. You're just a type of evolution. So really, we're both evolutionists. You now just arguing what type of evolution you agree with. Where's the creation come in?
Yeah, we draw the line.
Okay, I have to give away. I don't know if I screwed up the timestamp, but right at the beginning when we first started, you hear him talking about, I've learned so much from you. Well, during this conversation, he says, I've learned so much from Nephilim Free and so much from you, Sal. And so that's what he says. And that's
I was
trying. Yes. When he said that, and this man's a PhD and he's claiming that he's learned so much from Nephilim Free, I almost fell off my chair. So
yeah, and he makes some other references to buying into Cell's bullshit about biochemistry too. So
he's just trying to expand his YouTube viewer count, I think.
Yep. Something. Well, I don't know. They seem to really be hell bent on converting people.
And I'll say what they're admiring, or what I think it is they're admiring how much someone understands the canon. That's what Christians seem to admire. When you can quote the Bible or speak the Quran in Arabic, people get admiration because you're putting the time and energy to learn the canon. So atheists are like, okay, you're thank you, PhD person. You have learned someone from the Lord of the Rings. But yeah, I think that's what that is.
Okay, so where should we go?
Okay, so I got two other timestamps. One is at 2:01, and he talks about morality. If you want to listen to that, that was just the way he talked about it I thought was pretty sad. Typical, but sad to me anyway.
Because we got no foundation for our morals. Chances are we'll just start killing little birdies and kittens at any moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Basically, yep.
Okay. Here we are. We're pretty close. Okay, roll it.
Who's a professor of microbiology asking me questions about computational biology? Even though I don't have my PhD personally, there are a lot of people in the biology community that need computational help. Mine was math and computational related things, but so this is a good channel. I'm hoping it will be a good channel to service people interested in biology, and you'll get way more biology than probably you ever wanted from this channel, and biochemistry and a lot of other things that are on the science side. That's why I'm hoping he and I will make these videos that are more on the archaeology, things that are a lot more accessible to everyone, because science is a very specialized field. It has its own language. And I'm also hoping that as we make these videos, Sandy can then say, okay, this.
You really suck at this time stuff. Oh, did you say 201?
2:01. Where are you? I don't know.
Oh, no. Okay, I'm the one that sucks.
Yeah,
his apologetics ministry. They'll start to see what he actually talks about. And I'm hoping that'll open doors for him in the churches around the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. Because then, because I found that, say I can teach this, and they, some people would like to see what you teach. And so I'm hoping this channel.
Well, I think you're selling yourself short there, brother, because the biggest problem we've got around here is scientism.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, in any case, I wanted to point out this question of morality. Some evolutionary psychologists by the name of Thornhill and Palmer they said, okay, let's just extrapolate evolutionary theory and see what it has to do with the issue of rape. And they concluded, well, rape is as natural as the giraffe's neck and the leopard's spots.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's selected for because, if the males are trying to pass on their traits, the ones that are more aggressive with the females are going to pass on more traits. And oh boy, the evolutionary community was outraged, not because they thought the science was bad, it just made them look really bad.
Yeah.
But there's nothing there that was not consistent with evolutionary theory. And then another guy around the same time, David Buss, said murder murder is evolutionary favored. So evolutionary theory says murder and rape are favorable.
David Buss is a famous evolutionary psychologist who actually wrote the Encyclopedia of Evolutionary Psychology, I think. So, anyway,
traits, and they none of the evolutionary biologists refuted it based on evolutionary theory. They just didn't
like it.
They deplatformed them because it made them look bad.
Yeah.
Because it actually told the truth of what evolutionary theory teaches.
Can we force in for a moment?
So
yeah, we gotta unpack this.
I love Sal, but that is lowball conspiracy stuff. No one is blocking anyone from presenting anyone's view of creationism or anything else. We just want empirical, verifiable evidence that everyone can see.
Right.
The creationists really hate observations.
No, the evolutionary psychology. Okay, there's a book called The Natural History of Rape, basically. And it really, you can imagine how popular that book was. It was by an evolutionary psychologist. And the thing is, you have to look at, I mean, just because something is natural doesn't mean that it's a good idea to do it, right? It's natural to eat as many fucking donuts as you can stuff into your face. But is it a good idea to do that? Is it something that we're going to do, or is it something that we're going to use our well-developed forebrains to say, nope, this is wrong? So, I mean, and it's a real touchy issue. The natural history of rape is a very, very touchy issue for a lot of people. But there is, whether or not it's natural or not has nothing to do with what our morals are concerning it. And that's kind of what he's saying.
Generally speaking, I use rape from a game theory perspective to explain why morality has a base in biology. And because generally,
cool,
every theist laughs at me when I start this, and then I run them through it and I say, okay, but we're on the game. Let's pretend that we no longer have sexual organs, that their sexual organs just no longer exist. Okay, is rape possible? And as far as I can tell, the answer is no, which means that it is based from biology, and we're speaking about conscious agents on the macroscopic landscape.
Right. And you're going to have variation, among species, and you're going to have different kinds of aggression. And wherever you would find rape as some sort of a naturally selected feature, you're going to find whatever counters that rape as a naturally selected feature. You're going to find balance everywhere.
Also, oh no, sorry, you weren't finished.
I'm done.
Oh, also, this gives us the basis to do what many of the theists say that, or appear to want to do, is we can actually say rape is wrong. We can sit here. We don't have to be like squishy in the clouds about it. Rape is wrong. We know it's wrong, and it has a base in biology. And we can't say that with a God, because if a God suddenly says rape is wrong, or says rape is right, that doesn't make rape right. I don't even understand that logic.
Oh,
exactly.
Can I take a hot take here?
I want to comment on Minnie Karen, but go ahead first. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I find it hard to believe that the scientist that he was talking about was completely deplatformed, unless he was arguing that it's the primary strategy. I've heard a bunch of people talk about how it's a strategy for reproduction, but in a social species, it can't be the primary strategy. Same thing for violence, right? Violence is a thing that only happens sometimes.
Who did he say was deplatformed?
I forgot the name of the guy he just said, but he did say it. He said he was
David Buss?
Whatever. Might David
Buss? Okay. Yeah, he's just an evolutionary psychologist, and all evolutionary psychologists ended up with egg on their face because they got too excited and they overextended the science into the pop magazines, and they ended up with trouble. But David Buss is, as far as I know, highly respected, and like I say, he wrote the goddamn encyclopedia on it. So,
but the hot take is rape isn't always a bad thing. Period. It helps select against overly stringent societies.
So I would say, just to comment on that, it's good from a genetic passing standpoint, but it's not good from a conscience agent standpoint because you're violating bodily autonomy.
Okay, I wanted to point out the really important part about evolutionary psychology, and the reason behind it was that if we find out that that we do have a biological tendency, I don't think anybody can deny that we have a biological tendency for males to mistreat women.
Testosterone's a hell of a drug.
Yeah. And if we understand our biology, then we have great hope in overcoming it. And that's what I mean. That's what I meant the other day when we had that little tiff about educating our children on some of these subjects. Because if they understand their biology and their tendencies, if you understand basically some tendencies that you have that are probably not a good fucking idea to entertain, then you have some hope of overcoming them. Like one really interesting thing that struck me, and I use this when my children entered puberty. In my family, my dad, every kid that entered puberty ended up fighting with my father to the point where you had to run away from home because my father was so horrible about it. And I was reading evolutionary psychology at the time, and it occurred to me that this may well be a mechanism for the male to kick the young males out of the nest. And sure as hell, when my kids turned 13, I felt certain tendencies, and I knew about it, and I talked to my kids about it, and I never ended up kicking them out of the nest. Hence, I still live in my son's basement. So we became friends because I understood that this was at play, at least in my family history. There was because my brothers basically seemed to do some of the same things to their children, particularly my older brother, alienating their kids the same way my father did, even though they complained about what my father did. And it just struck me, this may be a biological tendency. And it's almost a meme that when young girls reach puberty that they start fighting with their mothers. And males start fighting with their fathers. I mean, if that's the case, and if we find an actual neurological structure that inclines us to do that, fucking A, we can overcome it, right? If we know about it in advance, it's coming, because like my experience with parents and their children, I had a lot of teenagers that used to come to me for advice back in the day when my kids were teenagers. And the parents were almost always completely unreasonable. No matter how good their kid was, they would find something that their kid was not doing right. And they would just keep picking on them and picking on them. And I would advise the children on how to use sort of judo on their parents. Like when they tell you to come home at 11 p.m., come home at 10:45 and offer to do the dishes and watch how confused your parents become. Because the parents were almost trying to set rules so that they could have a fight with their kids, and they would keep changing the rules or tightening the rules until they could fight with their kids. So if the kids just laid down and outperformed what the parents' expectations were, the parents got confused. Anyway, there's a wonderful book called The Family Crucible that gets into the psychology of that. And there are psychologists that back this idea. So I did just make it up. So anyway, that was my comment on what Minnie Karen said. I'm done.
Thus endeth Speed's rant.
Was that a rant? I guess it was.
I just couldn't think of a better word.
No, that was a fucking rant. I'm sorry.
Hey, I love rants.
I apologize. I'm a bad
Nothing
person.
to apologize for. It's your channel.
What are we doing next? Are we going further? Further?
That was speaking your mind, right?
That was speaking my mind. Yeah, I mean, God, we can make a difference if we understand that we can understand ourselves and basically improve our society based on. And I'm still ranting. Shut the fuck up. Okay.
So you're just basically saying science is another path to self-knowledge.
I'm a scientist. There I am with science. The Sandy Pigeon made it. He made another comment early on in this video. He said that the problem is that we're listening to scientists.
Yeah.
He actually said that out loud. I don't know what timestamp. I have to find that.
Yeah, and that was actually the next part that I was going to go to because, well, the reason being, like you said, he mentioned that several times, too much scientism and all that, and then at the very end of this, he talks about what he's doing, with his postdoctorate, that he's, getting involved with, near-death experiences and neuroscience. He actually mentions how that he thinks that the mind can be separated from the brain, and that's like a proven thing. I believe he basically alludes to that right at the very end. The timestamp is 2:08:30 is where he starts talking about that. And what I find interesting about that is, like you said, he talks about scientism, and it's funny how he's going to accept the science in the near-death experiences, or accept those studies and the studies with the mind separating from the brain and all that, anything that has to do with that. But he basically throws out all of science with his young Earth creationism, right? So
right, and Cell's whole idea behind his channel is that he's using science to prove God.
Science!
And young Earth creationism, right? But we're going to we're going to listen to Cell, but we're not going to listen to those other scientists.
Right, exactly.
The ones that disagree with us.
And this guy says the same thing, basically. Yeah.
And the funny thing about near-death experiences, what I found is that they use that to prove that there's a heaven. So if that is the case, then you can get into heaven while still being alive.
Yeah.
Because it is a near-death experience. You're not dead yet.
You just can't stay too long. It's kind of like
what? Yeah. How the hell do you get to heaven while still being alive? That's what I want to know.
Yep. They made a mistake. They have a mistake, sort of thing. I don't know.
I have no clue.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have to say I have the utmost respect for this gentleman for becoming a Navy SEAL and doing what he did, because, just the physical and mental, what it takes to do that is incredible. But I've kind of lost a little bit of respect for him listening to this, all the stuff that he has talked about in here is like,
yeah, and
he lost me. He lost me when he said that you need to know the arguments for old Earth and young Earth in order to be convincing as an apologist. That is just him telling that you need to be able to cherry pick. That's all.
Yeah, and I was joking when I said that Navy SEALs shouldn't be allowed to have weapons in my description. So I just want everybody to know that was a joke. I do have a sense of humor. But it was kind of related to what happened yesterday in Minneapolis, where I've been musing about the wisdom of taking the guns away from the average policeman, like they do in England, I think, or they used to.
You can still get away with that because the Navy did train actual SEALs and actual dolphins,
and they didn't have guns as dolphins.
So they wanted to use dolphins and attach a bomb to them to blow up enemy ships, and then the dolphins just fucked off. So
wow.
So wait, can you share my screen for a second? You're telling me this killed Osama bin Laden?
There you go.
Yeah, that's an oldie but a goodie.
Highly likely.
Yeah.
So wait, about the cherry picking thing, I don't think that's cherry picking. I mean, he might be cherry picking, but in order to give any argument for any position adequately, you should know all the counter arguments.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you should. But so I'm referring to that in the way he used it in his sentence.
Yeah, he very specifically had a set of sentences that led you down the path that you need to know what you're fighting against in order to cram creationism down their throat.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of arguing a position.
He said you have to have those arguments in your apologist toolbox. if they are in your apologist toolbox, that means you're cherry picking between old and young Earth. There's no other way to explain that.
I don't see that, because if I wanted to argue the position that rape is fantastic, even though I think it's wrong, I'm going to need to know all of your counter arguments to cram it in your head, because that's what I'm arguing for. That's true of any position you take.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, okay, so
That's fair.
So the way I interpret toolbox is the positive arguments you can make for your case. That's your toolbox. Knowing about your opponent's position isn't part of your toolbox.
No,
I think.
But well, I mean, you could consider it that, but I mean, you would need to know your opponent's positions to have adequate tools. Is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Right, so-
I agree. I agree with that, but still, it sounds a little bit fishy to me.
Oh man.
Because if you learn from young Earth creationists and old Earth creationists, if you learn from them, that means that they actually have something to contribute to your specific case.
Yep.
Not
Okay,
sure.
should I play this one?
Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm just being pedantic again, but that's how I saw that.
Yeah, there was just something about the way he said it that indicated that it was preachery stuff.
Oh, definitely preachery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
If he learned from
Hey,
Nephilim
everybody,
free,
it's Minnie Karen.
it's many.
Hey, Minnie Karen.
Hi guys, how are we?
Hey, we're okay.
We're great now that you're here.
We were talking about we were
Scott,
just
you're the
talking,
sweetest.
we were talking about the Jewish earlier. Where were you?
What do you think about Jews?
You don't want to know.
Talking about the Jewish.
I don't know what the hell many is, so I thought I was having trouble. I was having trouble phrasing it.
Try
Yeah,
mystic, maybe. I don't know.
Like,
I
all
know
I'm
he
saying
lives.
is,
Yeah.
all I'm saying is
Definitions.
when it's phrased like that, it's usually followed up by problem. That's what I'm trying to point out.
The Jewish problem. Okay.
Or question.
Well, at least you weren't talking about the solution. That would have been worse.
Yeah, no, don't talk about solutions.
Not on this channel. We don't talk
Look,
about solutions.
Really, any third word after those two is bad.
I'll start it with my Holocaust jokes, and this will really end badly because they have really evil ones. I think I told a few.
Great. Okay, I'm about to get banned, but go ahead.
No. Really? No, I don't think so. Let's skip that.
Don't buy it. Do not go for it.
That's me. That's me. I'm gonna go for it.
By the way, you were talking before about evolutionary psychology.
Yeah.
It's a branch of psychology that I'm not particularly fond of.
You aren't?
No, I'm not. Because
maybe you misunderstand
cases, they sort of run with their conclusions, but they don't actually base them on anything other than makes sense to me.
Yeah, you gotta separate the wheat from the chaff. There, there's a whole lot of. I mean, it's obvious that we have to understand evolution if we're to understand the human mind at some point. But these just so stories were the problem, and Cosmides and Tubi and David Buss to some extent, they went a little overboard, and then the pop news got a hold of it, and it just all got screwed up, and Steven Pinker, and I mean they got egg on their face, and that happens a lot, and it's going to take, because of that, it's going to take 20 years for the actual useful stuff to come back around and help us out. So anyway,
Speed, you just triggered Dan. He's writing in all caps now.
Yeah,
Dan absolutely hates. Dan
link,
absolutely hates evil psych. Yeah, and we could fight about that all day, but I happen to have gotten into this field through evil psych, and I kind of like it, to tell you the truth. But so bad.
Yeah, but I think Dan has a point in that they sometimes detach themselves from actual biology and neuroscience.
Yes, but you guys made your fucking point. No, leave it alone.
Wait. Speed, did you notice what just happened? The Google moderator team deleted the link to get in here.
What?
Look in the live chat. Scott posted the link, the StreamYard link, and Google moderator team deleted it.
Oh, you're kidding. Because we were talking about Jewish jokes?
I have no clue.
Hey, they're the Juden Snell.
Oh, oh yeah. What the? They deleted the link to the stream.
Hurry, Dan. Click on the link. Hurry, Dan.
Let me try. I mean, Jesus Christ.
I'm waiting.
Oh, what the hell? So
well, at least they didn't say Albert macht frei.
Well, you know, when I was 25,666 days old, I took a PowerPoint and I took a picture of the font with it just said 25666, right? And they wouldn't let me put the icon up. So I had to change it. I had to spell it out, you know, to 20 whatever, and then they let it up. So I'm like, what the hell? Let me see if they delete. No, they left my stream up, didn't they? They haven't deleted mine yet. They will.
I may have to refresh. I don't know, but I can still see it on mine. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, no, I couldn't.
They did. And yours.
No, they deleted Scott's. Yeah. I don't know why you can see it.
I just asked them, since they're here, why not join the stream? They're going to delete.
Well, they probably found the word StreamYard offensive for some reason. Or stream? I don't know.
Stream can be offensive under certain conditions in certain contexts, I suppose.
My pro tip: if you're going to say anything about the Jews, say it in German.
No, they deleted.
I already said Albert macht frei.
I think it might be because StreamYard basically took over Google Hangouts, so maybe they're mad. I don't know.
Is it Juden raus or raus Juden? I always forget.
Well, it is Das because they're objects, right? They're not real people. So Das Juden.
But like Jews out. How do you say that?
It's not Das Juden. Das is singular. It would be die Juden, and as for the question that Manny Karen asked, it's Juden raus.
Juden raus.
No. You say Das because you're referring to them in a sense that they're a singular plague. Right?
Nope. Trust me. English is my third language. English is my third language.
I agree with you.
German is my second.
But it's way more insulting to say Das plague.
Germans would just look weird if you say that. And it's
Well, you would in German. If you were a German, you would say more than that to let them understand why you're using Das.
Germans invented being pedantic.
Yes, that's why they have a billion times.
We call them yeke. It's a word for pedantic.
Yekik?
It's Y-E-K-E. It's like a word for pedantic. If you want to say someone's a putz, then that's what you say, and it's a word for German Jews. Like for Jewish people who came from Germany. We call them putzes, basically. Because they are.
So, Icarus, hier ist alles gut. Wie geht's dir?
Oh, guten Abend, Herr Icarus.
Oh, come on.
Guten Abend.
I'm going to get banned for the German.
Hey, it's too soon. Yeah.
No, that was racist.
Okay. So that's a question I've always had. So I was always taught Abend is night, right? Do you just say Abend just for any time afternoon?
Abend is evening. Nacht is night.
Yeah, it's evening. Yeah.
Okay.
And Speed,
really
if you want to,
like morning, Tag is day. It's really close.
Speed, Speed, if you wanna get a strike, we can talk about my former job. At some point, I was an Obergabelstaplerführer. So
Oh my
we could talk
God!
about that.
Jesus Christ, Peter!
What?
What are you guys trying to do to me?
I was an
the Führer.
Obergabelstaplerführer.
Oh, okay.
Which pretty much means
Obersturmbannführer. That was Eichmann's rank.
no.
I'm so
That
fucked right
means
now.
that just means that I was the chief forklift driver. Sounds worse than it is, right?
It does sound worse.
But it's just over, right? It's like we're over.
Wait, does Führer get used like that? I thought it was like stand-in for emperor, basically.
No,
a Führer is also a driver.
Okay, you're right.
I just went to YouTube Studios, and all I could see is flames on the screen, just burning my channel. There's nothing left. Shit, I didn't know they had that. Anyway,
we can always switch to the other type of German, which goes like ja, das ist gut. You know.
Good. That is good.
We have two types of German: military and sex.
we haven't got to David's timestamp yet, so let's roll this. We got 15 minutes left. I do like these shows to end at 4 o'clock.
Okay, I have to go back to work. I'll drop by again, but before I go, I have to say that German can actually sound really nice, and "Ich liebe dich" is a beautiful expression. I don't really have anything against them. They're really cool.
Yeah, it's a beautiful expression. It just sounds like murder.
I always want to put a ball gag in my mouth.
Then yeah, that sounds bad.
Okay.
Okay, guys, I'll be back. Bye.
Okay, Penny, bye.
Bye, man. It was good to talk to you.
Okay, we're rolling.
Experiences, which, and here's the important apologetic about that, and it's now there are documents since 1975 they've been collecting the evidence, and these aren't the Sylvia Brown spiritual types. These are actual PhDs in neuroscience, MDs in neuroscience that have been gathering these things. Bruce Grayson, who is a cardiologist at the University of Virginia, has been compiling these things for decades. They've been compiled in a book, but that's showing that the mind, our consciousness, is not tied neurologically to our brains, that it actually is a separate feature that can leave our bodies, and thus giving the reason for our encountering.
Oh my God, I'm boiling.
There you go. That's what I was
What scientists prove this?
Yeah,
son of a bitch.
Heaven, hell, etc. There's also another thing which I found absolutely fascinating that I'm trying to get more information on. Because one of my friends from college, college swimmer, who was a SEAL sniper in one of my platoons. He also was a SEAL sniper instructor. He's got brain cancer, and he's been exploring his faith a lot lately. But we have a thing. His wife is a hospice nurse, and I'm trying to get a hold of her because there's a thing called terminal lucidity. And terminal lucidity has to do with Alzheimer's patients and dementia patients that will regain their cognitive faculties in totality between an hour and a few minutes before they die. It's a phenomenon that nobody's talking about. President Reagan had, and Nancy Reagan talks about, he literally came back to life for a few minutes and had a conversation with her. Just amazing. And I've had similar instances in my own experience with family, dying, coming back and having those kinds of experiences. So fascinating that a guy like Sam Harris is a neuroscientist, says, we're just all a product of our neuroscience and, the neurons firing and chemicals going off. Well, that's not true at all. We are the consciousness is encapsulated in there, unfortunately.
What was that movie?
Anyway,
what was that movie with Robin Williams where they, the dopamine experiment, where they fed dopamine to patients who were locked in, basically didn't talk at all. All of a sudden they came back to normal for a brief period of time. Do you remember that?
The Awakening?
The Awakening, yeah.
Awakenings?
Yeah, Awakenings.
Hero, and of course Robin Williams. He was basically based on now I can't remember the name of the doctor that they based it on.
Yeah, he was pretty famous himself. But anyway, there are very, very good physiological reasons for that experience. So I think to be fair, they should be talking about those too.
And can I just say, it seems kind of weird that he was like, he set up a really nice slam of Sam Harris, but then he ended it with like, mumble, something, whatever. Let's move on to the next subject. I don't know. He didn't, he gave like this Sam Harris doesn't know what he's talking about, but then his own explanation didn't really seem to come after that. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Yeah.
Let me just listen to that again.
This is a new tactic among creationists or apologists. I mean, not creationists, but apologists. Their new racket is to point to kind of pop culture, supernatural experiences like out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, dragons, belief in
anecdotes,
Turin, all to make them think that. Yeah, you believe in the supernatural stuff, and this supernatural stuff is real. Why not believe in Jesus? He's real too. And you see this coming from Otangelo in some ways, because there's the only thing he doesn't believe is evolution.
Oh my God, Peter.
Go ahead.
So Professor Dave has that thing where Professor Dave is all about the science stuff or something like that. We should do a Cell is all about the supernatural stuff imitation of that. If wouldn't that be great?
Yeah. Well, all this out of body stuff. They don't see. It seems to be a total underestimation of the mind's ability to simulate things.
Yeah.
It's like they're just unaware of what they're capable of.
There's something really interesting about this. The occipital lobe, which is in the back of your brain, is an actual map of your visual field. And when that thing starts to lose oxygen, what happens is I think it goes from the periphery and it ends up becoming a more and more intense white light, and then it disappears. And when you go unconscious, like when you get hit on the head and you say you saw stars, basically that is your occipital lobe misfiring. But there are, and there's an anesthetic, nitrous oxide, that as it puts you out, you'll lose vision from the outside, and you end up getting this tighter and tighter little funnel, and it looks like you're going into a tunnel. And I've experienced this a number of times on nitrous oxide at the dentist's office. And so I mean, there is a physiological reason why it looks like you're going into a tunnel and why you see a white light. And we fucking know this. But nobody wants to talk about it.
But we also know unconscious people that are unconscious with their eyes open can sometimes remember their surroundings while they were unconscious.
Yeah.
It's not that they were aware of them at the time, it's that they're aware of them after the fact.
They left a trace, yeah. Or after the fact, yeah. And you can remanufacture. Like when you're unconscious, you're going to basically project whatever you're feeling and experiencing now into the past. So doesn't necessarily mean it happened.
Yeah, that's what most of these out-of-body experiences are, right? Just because you're unconscious doesn't mean your eyes and ears stopped working.
Yeah. Top Dog? You were saying something?
You were talking about Robin Williams' movie?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen What Dreams May Come?
No. It's called Awakenings. It was with, and I forget the professor too, but he's pretty famous.
Oliver Sacks.
I was just asking.
Oliver Sacks. There you go. Yeah.
I was asking if you guys seen the movie.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
that was a cool movie. So.
I saw it in the theaters. Never saw it again.
Yeah.
Speed. Something I realized the other day is, do you know how these new cars now have a camera? And then you can have the output looking like the camera's hovering above the car. So you can have a complete surround view. Yep. I'm wondering when an apologist is going to come up with this technique to explain out-of-body experiences and how they're hovering in the room. Just curious.
Yeah. And I think that may not be far off from what's going on, because there's a part of your brain that puts you in your place and gives you that first person perspective, and you can lose that. They can put magnets on your brain, and you can feel like you're floating or you're not really where you are. So, I mean, that happens.
Oh yeah, because everything you experience is because of the brain, not really because of the outside of the brain.
Yeah, a couple shots of Jaeger does it too, I think. So.
Google
Think of your brain
moderator
as a
team is
computer.
still
So.
Google moderator team is still here deleting messages.
What are they deleting?
I have no clue. So I didn't think there was anything inflammatory. Dessel, post it again. See what happens.
Try to say it in a different way.
Hi, FBI. I'm just kidding.
But it might be automated because there are some automated things.
It is automated. So I think, he just posted a link to hallucinatory near-death experiences, and they deleted the shit. Try it again, but word it slightly different. He put,
Go home, Google. You're drunk.
Yeah.
And it's got deleted again.
Oh my God.
Baby, the Myth of the Afterlife book is on the no-no list, and it must be burned.
Jesus Christ. What is going on? They got to stop with this automated deleting stuff. Their algorithm is not working.
No, it's not.
Anyway. Okay, so I'm going to play a little more, and then we're going to wrap up, okay?
Yep. So anyway, just to say, I find it interesting how, him being a young Earth, he's pursuing Nephilim-free science, and he's pursuing this type of science, but he denies all the other stuff, which is kind of a little interesting with this gentleman.
Listen to a few more words, and then we'll consider wrapping it up here.
I like Sam Harris, who's a neuroscientist, says, we're just all a product of our neuroscience, and the neurons firing and chemicals going off. Well, that's not true at all. We are the consciousness is encapsulated in there, unfortunately. So anyway,
there you go.
all you guys.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. His big explanation. I'm sorry, that bothers me.
Yeah, it does. It bothers me. Yeah, it's encapsulated in there somewhere.
I'm sure he's a smart guy. I think that this just seemed like he put more effort into the slam than the explanation.
Right.
Yeah, too anxious to jump to illogical conclusions.
Okay, so it's pretty obvious that I've been picking on Cell Cordova lately. Isn't it?
Yes, you have not focused on other channels.
And the creationists are talking about how I'm focusing on Cell, and I just want them to know that I really am focusing on Cell Cordova. I really do have them in my sights. So anyway, I just want to be honest.
One thing, Speed, and I know you're going to hate me saying that.
Oh shit!
On Kent Hovind sometime.
Oh God, he's too stupid.
If you do, I'll make sure he gets a link. You'll get free promotion when you're going to be on Whack an Atheist. It could help.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess that would be cool. Okay, we could try it, but it's like having Darth in here. It's like, yeah, we'll do it for the good of the channel. But God, I hate it.
Listen, you're a buffoon. Oh, I want to talk to Darth so bad.
Your soundboard is too.
Hey, speaking of that, Speed, you got my email, right? Did you watch Leo's thing, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Well, I watched part of it, and Leo's going to upload it on his channel later. I'm going to do his intro for him and stuff, and get him the video. I just downloaded it, but I think that might be a rich thing to look at. I mean, I do want to pick Darth's arguments apart because they're so goddamn lame.
Oh, it is. It really is. I mean, Leo just tore him apart.
And it's very much related to this bullshit that atheists just want to sin and that we have no means or we have no foundation for our morality and all that crap. I mean, it's just all in the same pile of shit. Anyway, guys, I want to wrap up for the day. Is that okay?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have anything?
There's not a lot we can do if you wrap up.
And can I just say one?
I'm a pushover. Yeah.
So I got to debate Sal, and that was fun. And I've actually got to have Sal on, and he did like a whole thing on why he thinks Pascal's wager is probable. That's the best way I can put it.
Is this on the channel?
And yes, I called it Pascal's wager because I am that much of a dad joke. And,
Yeah, I see what you did.
it breaks my heart because I could tell Sal's a good guy. I could tell he's educated, and yet it is the absolute fundamentalist of the literal. It says 6,000. Well, it doesn't actually, but it says this. I'm taking it, and it breaks my heart because in my eyes, he could be such a good scientific asset for against conspiracy theories and everything else. So it just breaks my heart that both the dichotomy of him being a nice guy and I guess in our opinion, him being so wrong on this subject.
So what is it? The video called Midnight Ranting, Pascal's Wager?
So there's two. We had a Pascal's Wager, which was just the atheists. And then out of randomness,
we got it.
Sal just was like, "Hey, Amy, I saw you were doing an after show," and I was like, "Well, we just did a Pascal's Wager, but we'll call it Pascal's Wager." So it's more like from his perspective that whole episode. In fact, I got flack from the atheists in the chat. I think this is when the channel was super new because we let him say his point of view, and it was very interesting. You can learn kind of like some of his deconversion. It's interesting that he went, like he said, from old Earth to young Earth or he went from, I believe he said he was an atheist or an agnostic at one point, and then he was a young Earth creationist, and I believe someone like John C. Sanford convinced him to go more towards the young Earth direction. And so now he kind of feels justified from an academic standpoint to push this, even though I would say all of us in here disagree on that since evolution is a fact.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Sal was big on gambling, right? You know that about him, right?
Yeah.
He did counting, card counting. I believe
he says
in
that. So
Yeah, he
I
was in
got
that
him to
movie.
explain that. He talks about it in the episode, and he told us how he did it.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I linked that in the chat, and I also put it in the description of this video. So, which is really kind of cool. The description today, I did a good job. So almost everything we referenced here, went into is in the description. So that becomes handy because I date these things. We can kind of see what's going on, and that's kind of what the weather report originally was supposed to be about. Now it's more about a meeting place. So anyway, there you have it. Going to wrap up. Anybody else got anything they would like to say?
P9.
I'm curious, Amy, when's your next show?
I think we're going live tonight. James was actually going to do a 2-verse-2 on I know you're all about to lose just a little bit more hope in humanity. I'm sorry I have to say the sentence, but the debate is on whether NASA is hiding a second sun from us.
Oh my gosh.
Shit.
I've always thought they were.
It all makes sense. And so I think
some days, aren't you just a little extra too hot? Just a little bit too hot, hotter than it should be. Yeah, there's a second.
What, Amy? What are they using though? Venetian blinds?
I have no idea. I thought it was going to be Alex Stein, and then Alex Stein backed down, and that was like Alex doesn't believe in something.
No. I mean, how do you hide a sun?
How do you hide a sun? Very carefully.
Not easy.
Do you use Venetian blinds, or is there another cover you can? Is there a throw you can?
Well, have you ever seen the movie? It's called Pitch Black.
Come on, Peter.
Oh, is that what
Has anybody seen the
with Vin
movie
Diesel?
called Pitch Black? Yeah.
Peter, if they can land
a moon or a planet or something that blocked two suns somehow for a long time, and then all the aliens and stuff came out because they couldn't handle the suns.
If they can land a rover on Mars, they can hide the sun. Come on.
I guess
really.
so. And hey, I mean, it makes sense in the Chronicles of Riddick. I'm not 100% sure if they could prove that is what NASA is doing right now. That would be cool. But once
That would
again,
be
I
cool.
think this woman is also a flat earther. I heard her. She seems like a sweetheart, honestly.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll tune into that. Okay. Okay, guys. Gonna end it for sure. Goodbye, cruel
Stay
world.
curious.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.